In this video, we're going to take a look at some simple macros. A macro is short for macro instruction. Macro prefix means big, so a macro instruction is a big instruction. What's a big instruction? Well, a big instruction in Excel is a bunch of little instructions that are all grouped together and treated as one. So if you ever find yourself carrying out the same sequence of instructions repeatedly, let's say you do it on row 1 and then you go down to row 2 and you do the same set of instructions, and you go down to row 3 and you do the same set of instructions, and you find yourself doing that over and over again, you don't need to repeat all of the instructions every time. The smart thing to do in a case like that would be to record the instructions once as a macro and assign the macro to a shortcut key on the keyboard or assign them to a button, and from that point on just use the shortcut key or click on the button every time you want to invoke the macro. Now, the first thing you have to do is, in order to invoke macros, you need another tab up here above the ribbon, and it's called the Developer tab, and it's not there. And the way you get that visible is you need to go to the File tab, go down to Options here, and under Options, what we want to do is we want to customize the ribbon. And over here is a list of the main tabs, and you'll see one of them is probably turned off by default, and we need to turn that on. It's called the Developer tab. Click on the Developer tab, click on OK, and now we have a new tab up here. And if we click on that tab, it shows us a bunch of things that are pretty much related to creating macros. And over here on the left, we see something called macro security, and you also have to change the macro security settings before you can invoke macros. And by default, one of these top two is usually selected. And the reason for that is for security reasons. If you open a spreadsheet that has a macro in it that you didn't create, you want to make sure that that macro does not get executed unless you specifically say you want it to be executed. That's a way that viruses can easily be spread. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to this last one. Now it said this is not recommended because it can let some dangerous code run. We're going to be writing our own code here for a while, so we don't have to be concerned about that. When we get done, it's probably a good idea to go back and set it to one of these first two. So we're going to enable all macros, and we're going to click on OK, and now we can run macros on our computer. We're going to start with a simple macro that just does some formatting changes for us. Let's say that there's a font that we use all the time. Let's say Courier New is one that we use a lot, and we find ourselves using that over and over again. Well, in order to invoke the Courier New font, what you would have to do is first select what you wanted to change, then you have to go up here and click on the down arrow and then scroll through until you found Courier New up here under the C's. And then when you find it, click on it, and the text that was selected becomes Courier New. But you had to do a little bit of scrolling. You had to make sure you were on the Home tab. You had to go to the font group and click on the down arrow and scroll until you found Courier New. So it does take a little bit of effort, and if it's something you're going to be doing over and over again, you might want to make that into a macro. So we're going to make that into a macro. I'm going to undo what I just did here, so it's back to the way it was before. And we're going to go to our Developer tab here, and we want to record a macro. And we can give it a name. The names cannot have spaces in them. Generally, the thing to do is start it with a letter and use letters, digits, and underscores for the name. And I'm going to call this Courier New. Can't put a space in there. If I do, Excel will reject it. For shortcut key, it's good to use some key that's easy to remember. C might be easy to remember, but Control C is the copy command. So I'm going to change that. I'm going to make it Control Shift C. So just hold the Shift key down and press C while you're in the box. And you can put it in alternate description here if you want to. You can also say where you want it stored. We're just going to store it in this workbook, and I'm not going to bother putting in the description here. I'll put in a short one. Change this font to Courier New, click on OK. And now, if you look at the button up here, they used to say start recording, now it says stop recording. And everything that I do, every click, every option from the ribbon or the menu, every keystroke is going to be recorded. So you got to be very careful that you only record exactly what you want to be part of the macro to be played back at a later time. So I want to go to the Home tab. I want to go to my font group here, and I'm going to speed this up a little bit by typing C for Courier, and it thinks I want these. So let's type CO. And now we're getting close to it, and Courier New is here. And that is it. I go back to the Developer tab and tell it to stop recording. Now, if I take my mouse and drag it over something and do Control-Shift-C, it changes to Courier New. Let's try another simple one. Let's take our text here and filter it. And if I want to create a new macro, I go to the Developer tab, I click on Record New Macro, and let's call this BUAD majors, again no space, because in this one what I want to do is I want to select or filter the business administration majors. Again, I picked a macro name that starts with a letter that is also used for the bold command. So I'm going to make that Control-Shift-B, so just hold Shift down and type the letter B. And this will filter BUAD majors. Click on OK. And now with these commands, you want to make sure that the cursor is in the data before you start. Now I started out with it in the data, but just to make sure that this macro will work regardless of where I start out, I'm always going to start these out with a go-to command, and I'm going to say go to someplace. I can't click there, I have to type it in, $A$3, and click on OK, and it'll take it here for me. So no matter where I start out, it'll get me into my data, which is what I want before I do any of these data manipulation commands. And I want to do a filter, and I want the major to be BUAD major, so I'm going to turn off select all, click on BUAD, click on OK, and now I've got the BUAD majors. Remember, it's been recording everything I've done, so I have to go back when I'm done to the Developer tab and click on Stop Recording. Okay, now my macro has been recorded and saved. I'm going to go back here and clear the filter. And to make it more interesting, this time I'm going to go off to the side someplace. I'm outside the data. And I'm going to do Control-Shift-B, which will take the cursor and jump it in there, and it'll filter the data by business majors. And there it is. I just typed it Control-Shift-B, and it invokes the macro for me. And that's probably a good place to stop for now.